Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of I Made a Podcast. Now, quick, listen, what if I told you that you can record your podcast, edit it, transcribe it, turn it into 10 pieces of viral content and share it on all of the social media platforms, and you could do all of this before lunch today. And the important part here is you don't even need to do it yourself. Yes, today we're talking about AI on I Made a Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome into the show. My name is Chris and this is I Made a Podcast, and thank you for tuning in today. This is where we talk about how to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. We talk about tools, tips, and I interview podcasters so that we can learn about what they're using on their podcast so that we can shorten our learning curve and become better at podcasting. So if this is your first time checking out the podcast, make sure that you subscribe and go listen to all of the past episodes. I'm sure that there's going to be some stuff that was shared that you will hear that will be a game changer for you in your podcasting journey. But today we're going to talk about AI. Now, AI is something that is out there, and I know some people are kind of scared of it and some people are embracing it. But AI, I'm feeling that it can actually take over the entire workflow for you, for your podcast. And in this episode today, we're going to do something different where I'm not going to do much talking. I'm going to let you listen to an episode that I created completely with AI, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Okay, so if those of you who are on YouTube watching this right now, you'll be able to see the things that I put up on the screen. And for those of you listening, you can use your imagination, or you can just go and check the video on YouTube and you'll be able to see the things that I'm going to show on the screen as well. Now, one of the things that AI did share in this episode is 5 ways that you can get started using AI in your podcasting workflow, and you can actually save time, maybe save money, and be more efficient in your podcasting workflow. So you're going to want to listen to it so you can catch those 5 ways and you can see which ones you can implement into your podcasting workflow. So let's get into this episode today. Now, there's a lot of technology out there that podcasters use for their podcasts, and a lot of them use AI already. So you might be familiar with some of them, but the extent that these technologies are going right now, where you can actually even use voice cloning technology to create a complete episode, that's kind of what I did today. But I didn't even use my voice. I used computer-generated voices, AI voices, and I'm going to let you listen to it. Now, previously, I heard some AI voices a couple years ago, and it sounded very robotic, and you could tell that they were AI. But I must say that the advancement in technology and the way that these voices are sounding a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to play an episode that I did using AI, and I'm going to share it with you so that you can listen to it, so we can listen to it together. I got my notepad here, so I'm going to take notes as we listen to it and see if I can pick out any things that the AI voices did or said that didn't sound too natural. But I'm going to go over the entire process with you so that maybe if you want to try using AI for your podcast, you can go ahead and take some of these things that I did in this episode and use it for your podcast. So the first thing that I did was go into ChatGPT, and I asked it, what is a good topic title that reads like a headline that I can use for a podcast to talk about AI advantages and disadvantages related to podcasting? And I put that into ChatGPT, and actually that's how I got the title for this episode. So it gave me back a few suggestions, and I chose Smarter, Faster, Better, How AI is Changing the Podcasting Game. And I mean, I could have thought of that maybe, but I let ChatGPT do it. Now, the next thing I did was I went into ChatGPT and I asked it to list some of the advantages, disadvantages, and some of the trends that podcasters need to be concerned about related to AI. And it created a long list of these items, advantages, disadvantages, and some of the trends. And it also listed the sources where it got its information from. And this was really helpful. So then what I did next is I said, okay, ChatGPT, can you summarize this into a paragraph that can be read in about 20 minutes? And it summarized it and created a script for me to read. And I was just like, okay, this is great. I have my podcast episode. It answered my question and it was able to structure it where it talked about the trends, it talked about the advantages and the disadvantages. And I was like, this is great. It actually summarized it into a script. So I'm like, perfect. We're off to a good start. Next, I asked it to create a podcast logo, the artwork for your podcast. And this is the image that it gave me. Now, for those of you listening to this episode, I put the artwork for this podcast that it generated as the cover episode for this podcast. So you see it has a little microphone in the middle there with headphones over it and a brain. I mean, that's kind of cool. And it has a robot on one side and a camera on the other side. And I just threw some of these elements onto ChatGPT and I said, hey, make something that talks about AI and podcasting. And this is the image that it gave me. So I have a podcast cover for my podcast now, and it created it completely for me in less than like maybe 2 minutes. Now, the next tool that I used was a tool called Notebook LM. Now, this tool, I think it's by Google, but it's free right now. And what you can do with Notebook LM is you can upload a summary or some content or something that you wrote into it, and it will have its AI voices read that summary like a conversation back and forth. And they will read it and it sounds almost human. I'm going to play it for you right now. It's about 20 minutes long. It talks about the advantages, the disadvantages, and the trends with regards to podcasting and AI. So this is something that I was going to talk about anyways, but I decided to let AI do it for me. So let's listen to it right now. I'm going to go over to my computer. We're going to play it. I have my notebook here and I'm going to make some notes as we go along so that we can kind of be nitpicky about some of the stuff that it talks about. And I'm just going to minimize myself into the corner of the screen here while we listen to this episode. But there's a lot of information that they share that is actually really good information that we all need to learn as podcasters if we want to take advantage of AI for our own podcast. So let's get to this episode right now. I'm going to play it for you.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging headfirst into a world that's, well, it's just exploded. Over 5 million podcasts out there globally, churning out something like 70 million episodes.
Yeah.
If you're making audio or honestly even just trying to find something good to listen to, this huge landscape creates a massive need for efficiency, for innovation.
Absolutely. And the source material we're digging into today, this report called AI Transforms Podcasting, it makes one thing crystal clear. AI isn't some futuristic idea anymore for audio creators. It's actively reshaping, everything, how podcasts get made, how people find them, even how they make money. And it's happening right now.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission for this deep dive is to take this source, AI Transforms Podcasting, and pull out the really crucial bits.
Yeah.
We want to understand why AI matters for podcasters today, look at the trends already taking hold, weigh the pros and cons the source brings up, and importantly, give you a practical idea of how you can actually start using this stuff.
Think of this as your shortcut, basically. We've waded through the report to find the surprising facts, the potential game changers, and also the cautions you need to know. So you get the informed perspective on AI's role without reading pages of analysis yourself.
Okay, so let's dive right into why the source argues AI isn't just cool tech, but becoming kind of essential.
Yeah.
One of its biggest points is about getting time back.
Yeah.
Podcasting production is famously long.
Oh, yeah.
The planning, recording, sure, but especially the editing, the marketing, publishing.
Yeah.
It can feel like a whole other job or two.
It absolutely can. And the source really zeroes in on how AI tackles these huge time sucks. It talks about, dramatically cutting down time on transcription, cleaning up audio in the edit, noise reduction, even creating social media snippets or drafting show notes and summaries, things that take ages manually.
So instead of staring at waveforms for hours or typing out every single word, AI tools can automate big chunks of that.
Precisely. And this automation, it isn't just a nice to have. The source really argues it's the key to freeing creators from that tedious manual grind.
Right.
It lets them put their energy back where it matters, the content, the creativity, connecting with listeners.
Time is always the big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially for indie creators. Which leads straight into the source's second major point on why AI matters. Cost reduction. Hiring pros, editors, copywriters for show notes, maybe even basic marketing help that adds up incredibly fast.
For sure. And for independent podcasters, small teams, those costs can be a real barrier, a serious one.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes that AI tools offer similar functions like getting a clean transcript or help writing descriptions, but much, much cheaper. This cost saving is framed as potentially, well, crucial for survival for a lot of shows.
That's a clear impact on the bottom line right there.
Yeah.
Beyond time and money, the source also talks about enhanced accessibility.
Yes, and this is huge. AI-generated transcripts, for instance, immediately make podcasts accessible to the deaf and hard-of-hearing community. That's massive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the source highlights the potential of AI translation tools. Imagine instantly opening up your show to a truly global audience.
Without needing human translators or voice actors.
Exactly. Imagine your show, maybe even sounding like you, but in Spanish or French, reaching listeners you just couldn't before. That's powerful.
Wow, okay.
And the last big point in this Why It Matters section is how AI helps with content personalization and, maybe most critically for growth, SEO optimization.
Getting found.
Right. AI can analyze how listeners actually behave, what they finish, what they skip, what they replay. It gives you real insights into what's working.
Which helps you make better stuff next time. And for actually getting discovered in that sea of 5 million shows.
Absolutely vital. The source talks about AI tools optimizing your titles, your tags, descriptions. This isn't just guessing keywords. It's like data-informed optimization, helping platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts show your stuff to the right people.
Okay, so we see the core reasons why the source says AI is essential, saving time, cutting costs, boosting accessibility, helping you get found. But how is this actually, showing up? What are the real trends and tools popping up right now?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, the how. The source points to several key areas. First off, AI-powered editing tools, names like Descript, Adobe Podcast, Alphonic, they come up a lot.
I've definitely heard the buzz about Descript. That text-based editing thing sounds wild.
It's genuinely revolutionary for a lot of people. And these tools do way more than just cuts. They can automatically find and zap filler words, the level out volume automatically, kill background noise. And yeah, that text-based editing, it means you edit the audio by editing the transcript, like a Word doc. Delete a sentence in the text, boom, the audio's gone.
That kind of speed for cleanup and basic edits is, pretty mind-blowing. What else does the source point to?
Synthetic voices and AI hosts. These are getting seriously sophisticated. Tools like 11 Labs resemble AI. They're really pushing what AI voices can sound like. How natural.
Okay, now this feels like the part that might make some folks a bit, uncomfortable. A little sci-fi still, maybe.
It definitely raises questions, yeah. And the source acknowledges it's controversial, but notes is gaining traction, especially for things like news updates or maybe educational content.
How so?
Well, the report mentions using it to localize your podcast, same content, different languages, but maybe with a voice cloned to sound like yours. Or generating daily news briefs without needing a human narrator every single time. Or even powering AI hosts that could summarize long episodes or deliver specific info.
So theoretically, you could put out your daily update in 3 languages at once without hiring extra people.
That seems to be the direction things are heading, yeah. Another huge trend mentioned is using AI for content repurposing. You pour all this effort into one great episode. Why let it stop there?
Good point. How does AI help you squeeze more out of it?
So tools like Castmagic or Podium are built for exactly this. You feed them your episode audio, right?
Yeah.
And they can automatically spit out draft blog posts, email newsletters, tons of social media captions, quote cards.
Quote cards, too, like with images?
Yeah, often pulling speaker names or suggesting images, audiograms, too, those little videos with the waveform, and even short video reels cut from longer interviews.
Wow. Okay, that's basically a whole marketing campaign generated from one audio file.
Pretty much. And the source makes the point that this lets creators seriously expand their reach, grow their audience across way more platforms with hardly any extra work after the recording's done.
Makes sense.
The report also touches on AI being used by the big platforms themselves for discovery, recommendations, algorithms analyzing your listening habits to suggest new shows, like Spotify's personalized playlist that mix music and podcasts.
Right, yeah. And what about the real grunt work? Like writing summaries and show notes? That takes forever.
AI-generated summaries and show notes are getting really common. Some hosting platforms even offer it now. The source notes that automating this keeps things consistent, presentation-wise. And it's seriously improved SEO because you get keyword-rich text without typing it all out. Super helpful for long interviews, especially.
Less time writing notes, more time planning the next show.
Nice. What about planning itself? Like prepping for an interview?
That's another area mentioned. using tools, particularly those big language models like ChatGPT.
How would that work?
Well, the source describes using them to help brainstorm episode ideas, maybe generate potential interview questions for a specific guest, or even kind of simulate how a guest might answer during your prep.
Like a practice session with an AI. That's actually a fascinating idea.
Right. The takeaway is it can sharpen your approach, cut down research time before you hit record, and finally, the report comes back to automated translations and dubbing.
Okay.
It describes the process. AI translates the transcript first, then pairs that text with a synthetic voice, often trying to match the original speaker's style or tone, which loops back to that global reach idea again.
It does. It's presented as a way to make your content understandable to international audiences in their own language without the massive cost and hassle of hiring human translators and voice actors for every single episode.
Okay, so we've got the why AI matters and the how it's showing up with specific tools and trends. Let's try and consolidate the clear advantages the source lays out. Beyond the time and cost stuff we mentioned, what are the big wins here?
Improved production quality is a really big one the source emphasizes. It says AI tools can boost audio quality in ways that are often hard, maybe impossible, manually, and often without needing super expensive gear.
How so?
Like automatically removing echo, balancing levels between different speakers, even trying to fix audio that was recorded poorly in the first place.
That's pretty amazing, taking a recording that wasn't great and making it sound professional.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
The source suggests this democratization of high-quality sound is a major plus. And build on the time point, there's the faster turnaround.
Yeah.
The report highlights that things like getting a full transcript, chopping out filler words automatically, or drafting show note stuff that took hours can now literally take minutes with the right AI tool.
Which makes sticking to a regular publishing schedule much, much easier. And that's key for audience building.
Totally. Another big advantage is the shift towards data-driven decisions. AI tools can analyze listener behavior in really fine detail.
So not just download numbers, but how people are actually listening.
Exactly. The source talks about getting insights into like which bits people skip or replay, figuring out the best episode length for your audience, seeing which topics really hit home, and even suggesting the best times to publish based on when your audience actually listens. This data is powerful. It helps podcasters fine-tune their strategy based on real engagement, not just hunches.
That definitely moves things from guesswork to, well, informed strategy.
Yeah.
And the source mentioned consistency and scalability.
Yeah, AI helps keep output consistent, which is really important as a show grows. Using AI tools with templates for things like show notes or titles helps maintain a consistent brand voice, you know?
Wow.
And automating these processes lets you scale up, put out more content or different kinds of content without necessarily having to hire more people.
Which, again, keeps those costs manageable.
Exactly. And just to reiterate the accessibility point, the report really stresses the huge advantage of having transcripts and subtitles for listeners who are deaf or hard of hearing. Plus, having that text automatically generated makes your content searchable by Google and others. That's a massive SEO boost beyond just the audio file.
And that global reach piece, we touched on it, but it's clearly a major advantage listed.
It really is. The source presents real-time translation and dubbing as genuinely leveling the playing field, especially for creators outside the English-speaking world, letting them easily reach and connect with a global audience.
Okay, that's a pretty compelling list of upsides. But, like with any powerful tech, there are always downsides.
Yeah.
Challenges. The source doesn't ignore those. Right.
Not at all. It spends a good chunk of time on the disadvantages and limitations. Probably the most common concern mentioned is that potential loss of, well, the human touch. Authenticity.
Yeah.
Podcasting thrives on personality, right? Spontaneity, emotion. And while AI voices are getting better, the source points out they still kind of struggle with real human nuance, that spontaneous wit or deep emotional delivery.
So automate too much, and your show risks sounding bland. Robotic.
That's the key risk they highlight, yeah. Over-reliance can make content feel generic, maybe lacking that core appeal. Then there's the practical issue of errors, inaccuracies, AI transcription, translation. They're good, but they're not perfect.
I've definitely seen AI transcripts mess up names or specific jargon or, strong accents.
Exactly. The source warns that these mistakes can lead to factual errors or just awkward phrasing if there isn't a human reviewing and correcting the AI's output. So that manual check is still crucial.
What about the heavier ethical stuff?
This is a serious point the source raises, especially around synthetic voices. It brings up the ethical questions about voice cloning. Do you have consent? Who owns the voice data? Broader IP concerns, too.
And the potential for misuse. Deepfakes.
Yes. The source specifically flags the growing risk of deepfake audio as the tech improves. Mimicking someone's voice to spread misinformation, damage reputations, it's a real concern. The report presents this impartially, not taking sides, but flags it as a significant challenge tied to the technology itself. Needs careful thought.
That's a heavy one. And yeah, it goes way beyond just podcasting.
It does. Another point the source raises is the risk of just becoming too dependent on the tech. Like relying so heavily on AI tools without keeping that human oversight. It could potentially lead to lower quality control or maybe make creators less sensitive to the little nuances that make audio really great.
So AI is a powerful tool, but you still need your own judgment, your creative instinct.
Precisely. And that connects to the next limitation discussed. Limited creative intuition. AI is great for brainstorming based on data patterns, sure, but the source argues it currently lacks that spark of true human innovation.
That original story idea, the perfect comedic timing, conveying real emotion.
Those core human strengths, yeah. That's what drives truly groundbreaking audio, and the source notes AI just isn't there yet. You still need human input for those creative leaps, that emotional depth.
Makes sense.
And finally, the source mentions privacy and data security concerns. These AI tools need your raw audio, your content to work.
Which means you got to trust the platform you're feeding it into.
Exactly. The source points out the potential risk of data privacy breaches or even your content being misused, especially if you're using free or maybe less regulated platforms. It's a reminder to be really careful about where you upload your stuff.
So we've weighed the big advantages against these, real challenges and limits that the source points out. For podcasters listening, maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by all this, how can they actually start using AI? Like today. The source gives a pretty practical 5-step guide.
Yeah, this is where the report gets really actionable. Step 1, start simple. Transcription and show notes.
Okay, what tools does it suggest there?
It mentions common ones like Otter.ai, Rev, or Descript again. The advice is basically start using these to get automatic transcripts. Then use those transcripts to quickly whip up accurate summaries, detailed show notes, and good keyword-rich descriptions for your hosting platform.
Okay, that feels very doable. A good first step for almost anyone. What's step 2?
Editing automation. Again, pointing to tools like Descript, Adobe Podcast, Auphonic. It recommends focusing on their AI features for the initial cleanup things like noise reduction, hum removal, leveling speakers, and really leaning into that text-based editing to make quick cuts and get rid of filler words fast.
Right, tackling that big time drain of the first edit pass. Step 3.
Content repurposing. This builds on that idea that your episode is a goldmine. The source suggests platforms like Castmagic, Podium, or Capshow.
Right.
The guide is basically upload your episode, let the AI help you draft content for other places, blog posts, social media, newsletter snippets, all that stuff.
Getting the most out of the work you already did. Step 4 is about promotion.
Yep. The report suggests using tools like Headliner or Pictory. These can help automatically generate promo assets like those audiograms, the social clips with the waveform.
Those are everywhere.
Or short video clips pulled from your show. The AI can also help optimize your headlines and hashtags for social media to get more eyes or ears on them.
So AI helps make the promo and make it work better.
Okay.
And the 5th step in their guide.
Using AI as a kind of general creative assistant, here the source points to those large language models like ChatGPT.
For brainstorming, I guess.
Exactly. The report suggests using them to brainstorm titles, maybe get help outlining scripts or even drafting parts of them, or generating interview questions tailored to a guest or topic. The source describes these AIs as potentially great creative collaborators if used thoughtfully, giving you a starting point, maybe suggesting angles you hadn't thought of.
That 5-step guide makes it feel much less daunting, actually. Start with transcription, editing cleanup, then use AI to repurpose and promote, and finally bring it into the creative process itself.
The source also throws in a few case studies which help show how AI is already being used out there in real podcast workflows, from huge shows to platforms built on AI.
Real-world examples definitely help make it tangible. Who do they mention?
Well, first, they point to the Daily from the New York Times. Now, obviously, they're not fully automated, but the team there reportedly uses AI tools specifically for transcription and organizing content,
Okay.
which helps them just manage the sheer amount of audio and keep up that incredibly fast, high-quality daily production pace. It's an example of a big established show using AI to basically enhance their existing rigorous process.
Right. So AI helps them maintain that standard and speed. What else?
Another example is Wondercraft AI. This is presented more as a platform specifically built around AI-assisted podcasting, scripting, AI voice generation, even publishing.
Ah,
A source notes it's being used quite a bit by business and educational podcasts, including for making those multilingual versions we talked about earlier.
so a dedicated tool for making podcasts with AI involved from the start.
Exactly. And finally, they mentioned that the big podcast hosting platforms themselves are integrating AI. Examples like Buzzsprout and Podbean come up.
How are the hosting platforms using AI? What are they offering?
The source points to them using AI for things like dynamic ad insertion, where the ads can be automatically tailored based on the listener, or maybe the time of day. Also offering better analytics based on listener data and providing automated episode summary features right there in the dashboard for podcasters.
That really shows the tech is moving beyond just niche tools. It's getting built into the basic plumbing of podcasting, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it's becoming part of the core infrastructure.
Looking further out now, the source does try to predict, where this is all heading. What does Section 7 suggest might be next for AI in podcasting?
Yeah, as the tech keeps evolving so fast, the source anticipates some really, well, potentially transformative stuff.
Yeah.
One idea is real-time voice translation. Imagine an episode being dubbed instantly into multiple languages, maybe as it's being created or sent out.
Wow. That would take global reach from being a feature to just a default almost.
Yep.
It really would globalize content in a whole new way. Hyper-personalized content is also mentioned. The idea that podcasts could maybe adapt dynamically based on your individual preferences as a listener.
How would that work? Like the podcast changes as you listen to fit you better.
That's the concept the source explores, yeah. Though it's framed as maybe a bit further out, they also predict much more emotionally intelligent AI voices, synthetic voices that can mimic human tone, mood, emotion, much more convincingly than they do now.
Which would tackle that key limitation we discussed earlier head on, right? The authenticity gap.
Exactly, potentially bridging that divide. And finally, the source envisions AI-generated co-hosts.
Seriously.
Like collaborative tools working alongside a human host during the recording, maybe providing live fact checks, looking up extra info, or even offering a counterpoint or different perspective to the human.
Huh. Like having a helpful AI research assistant right there in the conversation.
Kind of, yeah. The overall takeaway from the source's look ahead is that these advances will likely make podcasting even more dynamic, way more accessible, and probably significantly more scalable than it already is.
So, wrapping up this deep dive into AI transforms podcasting, the source paints a really clear picture, doesn't it? AI isn't just some passing trend. It's fundamentally changing the rules for audio creators.
The report's conclusion is pretty compelling, I think. It emphasizes that AI is transforming podcasting, not really to replace the human element, but more to amplify human creativity, seriously boost productivity, and extend reach in ways that weren't possible before.
Right.
The core message is that podcasters who embrace these tools, use them thoughtfully, they're the ones best set up to make more engaging stuff, connect with bigger audiences, and just grow their shows sustainably in what's obviously a very crowded space.
That distinction feels really important. AI is an amplifier, a partner, not a replacement.
And the source's final, I think, quite powerful insight is that while AI handles the tasks, the podcasts that really stick with people, the ones that grab attention and keep listeners coming back, they connect on a human level.
Mm-hmm.
They work because of the real stories, the genuine personality, that emotional connection behind the mic. The tech's a tool. The human part is still the heart.
So the future is probably about finding the best way to fuse that AI power with the essential human soul of storytelling.
That seems to be where the real magic, the real potential lies.
As we think about AI voices getting better and better, more integrated into how we create, maybe even acting as these virtual co-hosts, it does leave you with a question, doesn't it? As these tools become, well, maybe indistinguishable from human output in certain ways, how might our very understanding of what makes audio storytelling feel authentic? How might that fundamentally change? Something for you to ponder as you navigate this evolving landscape.
Wow, that was it. Well, first of all, It presented a lot of really good information. So I hope that you guys out there listening picked up a lot of good insight of how you can implement AI into your podcasting process right now. But I took some notes here from listening to this. So first of all, I noticed that at the beginning, they stuttered like a real person. Now, I don't know if that was just a glitch in the technology or if it planned to do that, but it made it sound like it was kind of real. I also noticed that there was an ah and a couple times, which, again, they talked about it mimicking human conversation. So I find it good that it kind of left that in there. It didn't do it too much, but it left in maybe a couple ahs and ums in the conversation. Now, I did notice that there was some words that the AI voices didn't say clearly. So I think it was cost reduction around the beginning of the episode, and it sounded like at one point like the lady that was speaking yawned. I don't know if that's what it was or if it was something else, but it sounded like she yawned in the microphone. But who knows? Now there was again some words where I heard show notes didn't sound clear, and informed strategy sounded very muffly when the person was saying strategy. One of the things that I did like though is that their pace was really nice and they were working together nicely. The AI was able to, time the words that they were speaking so that they can speak clearly to each other. And one of the things that I really find fascinating is that there's actually a tool out there that you can have AI co-host. So as I'm doing this solo podcast with you, if I had an AI co-host with me that can hear what I'm saying and then react to it live time as we're recording the podcast, that is something actually really interesting to me that I actually think I need to look into a little bit more. But this is just an example. What do you think? Can you put in the comments, what do you think about what we just heard from this podcast? And again, it was completely done by AI. Now, what I'm going to do after I record this episode is I'm going to take the recording, I'm going to edit it using AI, and I'm also going to create short clips and schedule it using AI completely. I'm going to use, I think it is called Opus Clip, where you can schedule it. You can cut up your video into viral clips, and you can actually schedule it to be shared on the social media platforms. I'm going to do all of that using AI. So this entire process is really hands-off for me as the podcaster. If I wanted to, I can just have that episode and put it together and put it into whatever programs I need to put it into so that the podcast from start to finish can be absolutely created entirely with AI. Now, the one thing that I didn't investigate was music. Now, I didn't know where I can find music created by AI that I can use for my podcast. I'm sure it exists, but I just couldn't find it. So if you know an app that I can use that can create music for me that I can use for my podcast, can you share it with me? Put it in the comments or message me so that I can know. But this was a really insightful episode. The content was very informative for all the podcasters out there. And it was just interesting to see that I can actually create a podcast using AI and be very hands-off. I didn't use much of my brain. I just asked it certain questions, and it's kind of scary that it can actually create all of this stuff for us. But anyways, that's it for this episode. I want you to share with me what you learned from this episode, or how you are using AI in your podcasting workflow, or what you plan to change as a result of listening to this episode, because it was really impactful for me as a podcaster to see what other tools out there that can make the work easier for me as a podcaster. But that's it for this episode. I hope that you learned something. Remember that the best time to start a podcast was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. And with AI, you can do it really easy. You can have all this done right before lunch. So go ahead and make it happen. And you'll hear from me next week on I Made a Podcast. Peace.